right. So
Good catch, Blakely.
kind of important. Thanks for comments coming in. We just finished up seeing patients, doing adjustments, and it was really cool. We had people coming in today. I've had a patient that I've been taking care of for a couple years now, and she said that she's like, it's been such a long time that I can't even remember the last time that I was sick. And it's something that growing up I was sick constantly, and for her it was like every few months she would be having to go get antibiotics. She was constantly getting sick, and she's like, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to not remember the last time that you were actually sick. So our patients, we are excited for you guys to be watching this with us. A lot of you were, after your adjustment today, went home and got in your PJs and said that you guys were excited to be able to watch this. So I hope you're cozy in your bed, being able to see this with us.
Yep.
We're going to be going through how to build a titanium immune system. And if you guys have any questions or specific things that you want us to go over as we're talking, Blakely is over here, out of view, but she will be monitoring. She's going to peek in. She's going to be monitoring and letting us know any of the questions that you guys want answered, or if you want us to go a little bit more in detail with different things.
Yeah, and the questions that you guys asked before, we'll be addressing those. Blakely's getting everything together so we can address that as we work our way through this workshop. And so if you asked a question specifically for a friend, share this, tag that friend so they can hear this information, because this could really end up saving their life. Because as we go through this, a lot of what we're finding with the research is that some of the approaches that were suggested taking, the mainstream approach, is dangerous. There's a lot of negative effects, negative impacts, direct effects of these protocols, these recommendations. So we're going to be going through how you can do this in a much more vitalistic way, rather than the medical take this medication to address this symptom approach.
And really, before we get into it, I want everybody to know there's a time and place for medicine. There's really a time and place for that. God forbid there's a crisis, a true emergency that happens, but we should really turn to medicine as a last resort. But unfortunately, it's become in our culture, it's the first line of defense. I have so many patients when they start coming in, how we're culturally taught to work on our health is, as soon as we have a symptom, we go to the doctor and we get antibiotics and we get medications to get rid of the symptoms. And what we're going to teach you, and what I hope you really start to instill on your children, is that our bodies are extremely intelligent. God designed our body just incredible, that the symptoms are a warning sign of something going on. If we're constantly getting sick, if our immune system is constantly down, we've got to figure out that's a red flag. We've got to figure out why that's happening. And we're going to teach you that the symptoms are actually part of the healing process, that our body never does anything destructive. And so we look at a cough, sniffles, fever, we look at those things as bad, but they're actually good for you. And so we're going to be kind of getting into this, but we're going to go through how the immune system develops, strategies that are going to help to improve it, and we have an awesome juice cleanse that we're going to be going through with everybody. So if you are ready to do an immune system reboot, we're going to be going through that at the end.
Super good news for everybody that's watching. You've done challenges with us before. I think the shortest challenge we've ever done has been a 21-day. The challenge that we're going to be talking about with this workshop is 3 days. So we have a 3-day challenge. You can go up to 5. You can do as little as 1. But the challenge itself, the research that we're going to go through and talk about when we outline what this challenge is going to look like, shows the biggest impact or a complete reset of your immune system in 3 days. So it's not this, even a week. It's a weekdays if you go the longest time. So it's going to be good.
So if you are somebody or your kids who is chronically sick and it takes you forever to fight something off, I remember growing up, it was like every few months I would have bronchitis or strep throat or sinus issues. I was just constantly sick, and I was that person who, if somebody in the room sneezed or coughed, I would get it. And I was constantly on different types of medications, and it was very frustrating. And I know a lot of patients, their kids are constantly getting sick, and even if you're someone who just wants to be on the preventative side of it, wonderful. The first thing I want to really get into is what the immune system really is. And I'm going to start with how it develops. So at birth, one of the most vital things that starts to develop is our microbiome. And what this is actual the bacteria that make up our body. I love one of the books that I was reading. It was talking about the human microbiome and just how important it is that this microbiome, the species of bacteria that live symbiotically with our bodies, we actually are 70 to 80% non-human cells. So when you think about that, that's insane. We have these bacteria that are necessary and vital for life, that if we completely lost our microbiome, if we got rid of all the good bacteria that live within our sinus tract, our ears, our digestive system, for women, the vaginal canal, that's where these microbiome live. If we were to completely lose it, you would die. Like, we could not live without this microbiome. And so it's something that we're really not taught about. It really should be considered its own organ. Just like if you lost your kidneys, you can't continue to live without vital organs. Your microbiome is that vital. And one of the crazy things is bacteria in our body weighs about 3 pounds. And that's actually about what our brain weighs. So we know how important our brain is, and the microbiome weighs about 3 pounds. It's pretty incredible when you really think about this. So as soon as a baby is born, how they actually start to develop their microbiome is when they go through the vaginal canal. We call it the probiotic gulp. They actually get all the bacteria that's in a mother's vaginal canal, and that starts to build their microbiome. This is the very first development of the immune system that starts to happen. So I want you to think about, I'm going to kind of go through as we're developing what interferes with it, but when we have a woman who is being given antibiotics during the pregnancy or during the delivery, that actually starts to wipe out the microbiome that she passes on to her child. A woman who I look at for myself, I was constantly on antibiotics growing up, so I wiped out my microbiome. I have to do so much now to help to support it. And so when I had my boys, we really made sure to start doing things from the outside, giving them probiotics. There's really, really great infant probiotics, and the species should change as they start to get older. But I wanted to really support that development of the microbiome because I know that mine was compromised. But then you look at altogether, if a baby misses out on actually going through the vaginal canal during delivery, if there's a C-section, we miss out on that altogether. So, you know, if for whatever reason a C-section was needed during the delivery, we have to do more things to support that child's body because they missed a really, really vital part of development. And so for the first 3 years of a child's life, their microbiome is actually stabilizing. And the biggest part of our microbiome is in our digestive tract, and it's about 70 to 80% of our immune function lies within there. So think about how important a baby's digestive system is, and you see all of these babies now with digestive issues, reflux, colic. They're crying all the time. They have these hard bellies. They're gassy. All of those are warning signs of not just digestive issues, but improper immune system development. So this is really, really important. I look at even adults that I take care of. I've had patients, they come in maybe when they're 30 or 40 years old with all these health issues or autoimmune things, and it really stems from when I get a good history with them. They may have been born via C-section. They may have been, when they were younger, they were having chronic ear infections. They had strep throat all the time. They had their tonsils removed. So we get this history of something was compromising the immune system, and nothing was ever addressed to figure out why was their immune system not working. Then they deal with all of these health issues later on in life. So Zach's going to be kind of going through, I don't know if you want to kind of intervene with some of these things as we start to go through.
Sure. One of the questions that we got looking right into it, what are some of the best foods that you could eat to recover from getting a bug or getting, catching a cold, dealing with the flu? A lot of times suggestions that this person was giving was the brat diet, banana rice, applesauce, and toast. Right off the bat, I mean, one of the things that we always talk about when we look at nutrition workshops, health makeovers, one of the very first things that you want to eliminate as much as possible are going to be sources of inflammation or sources of sugar. And banana rice, applesauce, and toast are all 4 huge areas of nutrition that you're going to get a lot of extra sugar out of.
So they've actually found, done research that when you consume sugar, because high amounts of sugar in the bloodstream is actually toxic, you would die. Your body, it actually takes energy and diverts it away from the immune system response to your body is always prioritizing survival. So it tries to pull it out and it diverts energy away from the immune response. So it compromises your immune system. And some research shows for about 5 hours after you consume sugar.
And as fast as 20 minutes, it happens. So, I mean, for 20 minutes after eating something that's going to break down to sugar, decreases your immune system for up to 5 hours.
And so think about, I'm going to give you guys some accountability with this. If you know people around you are all sick fighting stuff off, you just know that you're exposed to that. And so you have to make sure that you're doing things to support your immune system. If you're eating like crap and eating sugar, it's suppressing your immune function. So of course you're going to be, whatever you were exposed to, virus or bacteria, of course it's going to take over your body. So we have this responsibility to, even in times of stress, times that we have a lot going on, just know that our immune system is going to be weakened a little bit, that we have to do more being able to support it. So when our kids are constantly consuming high amounts of sugar, when their lunches are, a high sugar fruit juice, just all of these like fruit snacks, and when it's high sugar, they're around all of these viruses and bacteria, and if their immune system is actually suppressed, they don't get an opportunity to actually fight it off the way that it's supposed to. So what we recommend with patients is, if you're feeling stressed out or you have a lot going on, don't let your immune system get compromised. That means that you have to do more to support it. And so when I talk about sugar, this isn't just like candy and popsicles and things like that. It's also, like Zach was talking about, it's a high glycemic index foods. So certain fruits are going to break down the higher glycemic index. So banana is one example of that. And then, rices, breads, pasta, all of those things break down as sugar, and it has the same type of response.
Well, and a lot of times when we've had patients come in that have been recommended to do the BRAT diet, it's been something digestive. They've had an upset stomach, they've been throwing up, diarrhea, a lot of digestive issues. And these foods that are recommended a lot of times are really easy to break down. They're simple to process and digest. That's why they're recommended. But for us, if we feel like our stomach's upset, the first thing that we always take is probiotics. We would add maybe bone broth, something light. We do try to eliminate animal proteins because that is more taxing to digest and break down. So it would be, kale or spinach, baby kale or baby spinach in like a warm bone broth, so it kind of starts to soften. It's easier to digest, but you're not getting that overload with sugar, and you're actually incorporating things that are going to help to repair that soft tissue in the digestive system. But the biggest thing that we would always recommend first, what we do with our boys, is probiotics. That's absolutely the very first thing, whether it's something upset stomach, diarrhea, digestive issues, they're coming down with sniffles or cough, we feel like they may be having an immune response, the probiotics and D3 are always what we add first.
So we're going to get into a little bit as far as like protocols that we go through when the immune system is compromised. But I just want to get a little bit more foundation with you guys. I want you to really think about our body. It's created to detect if something foreign comes into the body, whether it's a bacteria or virus. As soon as it enters into our body, they found that virtually every component of the immune system, there are nerve fibers going to it. So the nervous system actually detects when a virus or bacteria, something that shouldn't be there, enters the body. And what the body immediately does is it initiates a response to get that out. There are specific cells of the immune system that find the bacteria, virus, and actually work on destroying it. So think about if right away, if your nervous system detects that entering the body, you give a full-on fight, and your body is able to knock it out before it ever progresses to anything. I think that is one of the coolest things that we see when our patients really start to heal. They fight things off like so fast. Honestly, one of the best signs of a healthy immune response is you getting a low-grade fever before you notice any other symptoms that are happening. And I really want you to think about this, that symptoms are your body doing what it needs to do to heal. So we always ask this question. We do it when we do talks to kids. Is a fever good or bad? And I want you guys to think about your immediate response. Is a fever good or bad?
In the response we always get, and the reason that this is perfect that we're talking about this now, we had somebody, their car broke down in front of our house, and we were helping them out, and they had their son with them in the car, so we invited the little boy in to come and play with Jude, and they got into an argument because they were talking about this very subject. Jude said something about, getting a fever, and that it's a good thing. And most of the time, the response we get from children is, no, fevers are bad. And Jude's response really was perfect. He's like, no, just because it's not comfortable, doesn't feel good, doesn't mean that it's not a good thing, because that's how it kills off the bad things. And
so I love our 6-year-old son is just having a conversation with another kid. And
they were spinning each other around on the swing, and the boy got hot, and he said he felt like he had a fever. And Jude said, well, that's a good thing, because fevers are a good thing. And that just totally blew this kid's mind. And it led to this huge argument because 2 6-year-olds discussing the immune response and how fevers are good versus being bad. It went downhill quickly because they just couldn't wrap their heads around it. But for us, all of us watching, I think pretty much these are all adults that are watching this. We'll get into logically think about why a fever would be a good thing.
So the first reaction that your body should have is, when the immune system detects it, it has to decide, depending on what type of invader it is, how it needs to respond. And what the body will do is it will actually heat up to destroy the bacteria or virus. And it's pretty incredible how quickly the immune response can start. So we actually tell people it's a good healing response if you get a fever right away. I grew up, I had a very compromised immune system. I actually had a lot of autoimmune issues. And I never got a fever. I was sick all the time. The doctors actually wanted to remove my tonsils because I was sick all the time, and which is crazy. When you think about it, the tonsils are actually lymph nodes pulling the infection out, and what our approach in medicine is we just take the lymph nodes out. We remove tonsils and adenoids. In reality, that doesn't fix why your body is constantly sick. That was part of the immune system, and we just remove part of that. It actually makes things harder on the body. But I was sick all the time, and I look at, I never got a fever, and my body should have gotten a fever to fight it off. It would take me probably 2 weeks to fight things off, and it was crazy. Now I look at, when I remember I was 19 years old the first time that I got a fever, and I had no idea what was happening. I'm like, why does my body ache? I have a headache. I don't know what's happening. I'm really sweaty right now. And someone's like, you have a fever. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never had this before. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I actually started getting adjusted and getting healthier. And now I love that I can tell right away when I'm exposed to something. I start getting a little bit achy. I start getting a little bit warmer. I kind of get a little dull headache, and I know that that's the first sign of temperature starting to go up. So the fever is actually your body's attempt to kill the virus or bacteria. But think about how backwards this is, everything that we're taught with medicine. What do we do as soon as we get a fever? We suppress it. We take a fever reducer and get rid of the fever. So I want you to logically think about this. If we suppress the fever, yeah, we feel better because the fever sucks. It doesn't feel good. But what did we actually do? We interfered with what the body was trying to do to heal. So we shut down the body's healing response. Now, do you think we're going to get over something faster or quicker? Or I said the same thing. Faster or slower? It's going to take a lot longer for our body to fight it off because we're suppressing the immune response. So then the body is actually trying, and that's when we have weeks that it's taking for our body to get through it. What we need to do is actually let that fever run and nurture the fever. So when we look at this response, I want to, just going to grab a reference here. I wanted to go over just at this point because I get a lot of people who ask about fevers and we panic about them. And even though it doesn't feel good, it is an important component of the healing process. So I want to give you certainty with what a fever is actually doing and what is actually safe. So I'm going to get this reference here.
So one thing while she's getting that pulled up, and any of the books that we're going to reference and show you, if you guys want to get those books and read them, we'll throw the links up in the comments down below. We'll make it available so you guys can get these books that Dr. Aaron's going to be talking about this research with. But before she gets into talking about fevers and the differences between them, when it's an emergency, when it's a crisis, when intervention may be needed. I want you guys to start looking. One of the things to start looking at with symptoms is that, it's the thought of honoring your symptoms. Without your body having these symptoms, or without your symptoms happening, that's actually what's curing or getting rid of any disease process, any illness, any virus, bacteria, any foreign invader. The symptoms are the blessing. The symptoms are what your body needs to do to get over it. So
we have our son, thank God, at night during his prayers that he got a fever. We're thank God that, thank you for the fever, thank you for my body healing, because it is a beautiful response that our body goes through. So one of the references, this is the baby book by Dr. Sears, and so he's a medical doctor, and he kind of goes a little bit more on the supportive side of the body. Really, my favorite reference book that I
think we talked about this with Raising Healthy Families, but
is Well-Adjusted Babies. This is like the best book for a new parent. It goes through all the stages with things. And this is a chiropractor in Australia actually wrote that book. But I wanted to reference for everybody, this is a book that was written by a medical doctor, and talks about a fever and a guide to everything, that a normal range of a baby's temperature can be up to 100 degrees. So I've had patients who say, oh, my son or daughter has a fever, it's 100 right now. That can actually be a normal temperature. So that is not any type of concern that we need to be giving a medication to lower things. A fever is a sign that your body is fighting something, and certain viruses that attack the body needs to get up to about 105 degrees to be able to kill it fully. So think about that, 105 degrees. And we panic when it comes to a fever. When your body is healthy and has a proper immune response, you have this innate temperature gauge that your body will not burn above 106 degrees. Now, 105 degrees is a high temperature, but sometimes depending on the type of virus, it may need to heat up there, but it won't stay there long. Long term of being high is when it becomes dangerous, but it can go up and it'll peak and then come back down. And so you might see a child fighting that way, that it peaks and comes back down. And that's good. That's the body doing what it's supposed to do, because it doesn't want to stay hot for super long periods of time. Typically, viral infections are a little bit higher. Bacterial infections may stay around that lower grade, like 101, 102.
Yeah, most viruses are killed off at about 103. At 103, your body actually starts making interferon. I thought that was pretty awesome. So your body is making, something amazing to help support your immune system.
So it's actually a temperature up to 102.9 degrees is considered a moderate fever. That's not even considered a high grade fever, up to 102.9. And so we freak out about the fevers. We look at in the movies somebody having a fever and like passing out and having all of these problems. Yes, a fever can be dangerous. The biggest component as to why a fever is dangerous is dehydration. That is one of the biggest reasons that a fever causes damage. And so one of the first signs of your child or yourself fighting something off, start hydrating your body. And not just with water, you need electrolytes. You've got to make sure that, like when you sweat, you're losing the salt and the minerals associated with it. You've got to replace those. So trace minerals are so important to start to put in the body. Yeah. Coconut water is awesome to replace electrolytes. So if one of us start to have a fever or sun, we start pumping coconut water in. One awesome thing you can do as for yourself or for kids is freeze in an ice cube tray, freeze coconut water. So if you have a sore throat, or if you have you're throwing up and your stomach doesn't feel great, you can kind of chop up that coconut water and get small, like the ice chips that you would do.
When you freeze it, it does make it taste a little bit more concentrated. It's like extra sweet. So kids may like that and may be a little bit more willing to try the coconut water if it's been frozen. But for me personally, I tend to lean towards the trace minerals and just water. So we can use, we'll share the trace minerals that we like to use, keep on hand. We always have 2 or 3 bottles of them that we drink throughout
You
the
can
day.
add those
but-
drops to water, or you can do like the Himalayan sea salt. You
Yeah.
can add that in, but you have to start hydrating and getting the electrolytes in so the fever doesn't become a danger to your body. So, when we start to get, our body has that innate shut-off mechanism that it's not going to let the fever get higher than that. I can tell you that our son, twice, when he's fought something, it peaked, it got up to about 104, close to 105, and then it was there for maybe like 5-10 minutes, and then it dropped, and he was done. Like
He wanted to play.
he wanted to play. He felt amazing after that. Like, and so what we do is we watch that climb and we start panicking. The problem is you need to have guidance, and there just is not that in our healthcare system. There is missing the doctoring side of helping to guide a patient through, no, this is a perfectly healthy fever, this is a perfectly healthy immune response. Doctors are just so easy to just hand some, like, oh yeah, take a fever reducer, go ahead and do this. So, with our patients is we really, when, they're having a fever or their kids are, we're helping to guide them through, like, nope, these symptoms are actually a good sign of a healing response, you're good. And then we can help to guide it. There could be a point in time that your body isn't having the appropriate response, and that's when you would look at an emergency situation. But I want you to know that that is few and far between. That is a rare circumstance that would happen.
And we get when it's your kid. For us, when Jude hasn't been feeling well and his fever has gotten up, we've called friends and colleagues and asked them, talked with them about things. And when it's your child, it definitely makes things seem so much scarier. So we can absolutely relate to a parent being in a situation where their child isn't feeling well, their fever spikes, it's elevated, they seem lethargic, and you don't know what to do. We've been in that boat as well. So just that's why we make ourselves available to our patients. That's why we provide you with our direct contact numbers, our cell phone numbers, so you guys can reach out to us when you're in a situation, if you're in a situation like that. We can help you decide whether something's an emergency or not.
And what we see happen a lot is right away when the child is first showing signs that they were fighting something up, or I have a patient, he's in his 40s, and he was having warning signs that his body was coming down with something. He felt run down, and he started to feel a little bit stuffy, and just kind of some warning signs that the immune system wasn't reacting the way that it's supposed to. But he still wasn't sleeping well, was eating not good, eating tons of sugar, and so the immune system was just getting suppressed, and that bacteria and virus were just taking over and getting worse, and that's when we have the respiratory complications. That's when we start to have the other major complications that someone has to get hospitalized and get steroids, like when we're getting all these respiratory issues. If the body fought it off correctly in the first place and initiated that response, it never would have progressed and actually got into the lungs. And so I want you to look at the first 24 hours of something getting introduced to the body. That is very, very significant. That is when we've got to go hard and make sure that we're doing everything right. And so we've got to start restricting sugar at that point. For myself, right away when I start to feel run down and I'm fighting something, I start doing juicing, because that's going to allow my digestive system to take a break and all of my energy to divert towards the healing process in the body. One of the other books that's really great to reference, this is Robert Mendelsohn. It's How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. He was a pediatrician over 30 years, and he actually, after practicing over 30 years, he says in his book, one of the best things that you can do to raise a healthy child is keep them away from doctors. And he talks about just how the body has this amazing, innate, inborn intelligence, and it knows how to heal. We just have to learn how to listen to it and work with it. One of the other things as far as symptoms go is when we have a cough. I want you to think about a cough is actually your body trying to get something out of the lungs, and then what we do is go ahead and take a cough suppressant. So again, think about that. All we're doing is actually shutting down the process of our body trying to expel something, so then it's going to take longer for it to really get going.
Think like Mucinex, and our body's developing or making mucus. We take something to eliminate it and keep it from doing what it needs to do. So our natural reaction a lot of times is to stop and eliminate the symptom, but that's like driving in your car and the check engine light comes on and we just put a stick of piece of black tape over it so we don't see it, or removing the light bulb so it doesn't happen anymore. The problem is still there. The car still has to deal with it. Our bodies are no different. We talk about this at Nutrition 101 when we look at the food that we're eating. We're no different. We have to put the best fuel in our bodies if we want them to perform at their best. So you start looking at symptoms as a blessing, and thank God that you're having them, because if you don't have a symptom and your body just deals with it, it's such a prolonged thing that you're having to deal with rather than just knocking
So
it out and being done.
It's a red flag and a warning sign if somebody comes down with something and it takes them more than 2 or 3 days to get over it. If it's taking you a long time like that, that is a warning sign that your immune system is weak.
It's taxed.
And that's a concern, because when you look at a weak immune system, your immune system is also responsible for finding cancer cells. You have natural killer cells, part of the immune system, that is constantly finding abnormal cells that form and working on getting rid of them. So if our immune system is down, thinking about what we're increasing our risk factor for down the road. And cancer right now, it's 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women. Childhood cancers are on the rise, so a compromised immune system, that's a bigger deal than just, oh, this sucked that I was down for the past week. And when our immune system isn't working correctly, we start to develop these autoimmune reactions. So asthma, allergies, skin issues that we start to see, autoimmune thyroid issues. There's all of these autoimmune conditions that are increasing now, and that's a warning sign that your immune system isn't working correctly. And all we do with those autoimmune conditions, I had some of those growing up, and I was put on steroids to suppress the immune system. Think about how crazy that is. So your immune system's having an improper reaction, so we address the symptom in medicine, and we just shut off the immune system. So yeah, it stops the autoimmune attack, but it stops the entire immune response. And so in the end, we're actually sicker as a result of it. We did nothing to get well. We shut off the symptoms, and then we call it a day and say that everything's okay. But I guarantee what that person is going to see is more and more health issues down the road if they don't ever address the improper immune system response in the first place. I told you I was sick growing up all the time, and then I started to develop as a teenager autoimmune issues. Well, if you trace that back, it was my immune system never developed right in the first place, and I started to have these abnormal reactions. So by getting my body to heal and figuring out what was interfering with the immune response, then I was actually able to start having the appropriate immune reaction. For patients that see what we do, we're exposed to tons of people on a daily basis. I'm close to them with adjusting, and so I'm constantly exposed to bacteria and virus. But if I can keep my immune system up, then it reacts, and you never come down with anything. So that's a cool thing to see. As I had a patient she was someone who was sick all the time, and she goes, everyone in my office was sick, and I wasn't. She goes, I used to always be the person, like the first person that would come down with it. She goes, everyone in my office, was out for days, and she didn't have anything, because you know what? Even though she got exposed to it, her immune system fought, reacted, and it was done.
So we just addressed 2 questions that you guys asked, how a weak immune system can affect the function of the thyroid, and kind of first steps that you would recommend for someone with autoimmune problems. So for us, the very first thing that I do when anything is going on symptomatically, if I just don't feel right, I feel congested, I feel like I've got a headache, first thing always for me and Dr. Aaron, both our boys, we get adjusted. Make sure that the system that controls all function in our body is working at its best.
So with the adjustment, I talked about that earlier, virtually every component of the immune system, there's nerve fibers attached to it. So if we want to have the appropriate immune response, we've got to make sure that the brain can communicate that immune response appropriately. They've done studies that immediately following an adjustment, your immune system boosts up about 200%. No medications can achieve that. That's your body. It's called a respiratory burst that your body goes through. One really cool study, and we've referenced this at our other workshop, that they did a study on HIV positive patients, and the CD4 count, they had a group that was receiving an actual adjustment, and then a group that was receiving a mock adjustment, placebo. And the group that was receiving the actual adjustment had such a drastic improvement in CD4 count that they morally said we need to stop the study, because we can't keep doing the fake adjustment when these people need their immune systems up. I mean, it's just incredible to see what the body is capable of doing. And so, yeah, we recommend at first signs of something going on, get adjusted.
Yeah, if you're dealing with a chronic autoimmune issue, the first thing that anybody would need to do is make sure that their there's not something larger going on. There's not something, an issue within the nervous system. Now, if you're already in the office, you're already getting adjusted, we're removing interference with the nervous system, your body's healing, functioning as best as it can from that stance, with essential number 2, we would then begin addressing the other essentials, making sure that we're minimizing stress, that we're taking in the right nutrients, that we're reducing inflammation through food, that we're getting oxygen into our body, that we're removing toxins. All of those things are a component, but the number one first step for anybody, if you're watching this and you're wanting to know, how well your body's healing and functioning, if you want to know, what your nervous system looks like, the next step would be finding a Maximize Living doctor around you, coming to us if you're in Jacksonville. If you're not in Jacksonville, you're watching this from somewhere else, shoot us a message, let us know where you're at. We'll tell you who we know in that area, and we'll get you plugged in. But
really, that was such a turning point in my health. When I started getting adjusted, that is when all the autoimmune issues started to correct themselves, because my body actually started healing. I had a reverse curve in my neck, and that was affecting my body. My immune system it wasn't responding the way that it's supposed to. And that was really before I started making the nutrition changes. And for you guys that know, I was definitely, I still am, a sweets person. I definitely do the healthier sweets now, but that's my go-to.
She does the healthier sweets thanks to Gigi.
Yes, I have a wonderful mother-in-law that helps to get healthy treats. But that was really the turning point, even when I wasn't eating well. So, we just had the hurricane happen, and I know everybody didn't eat great. But what was really great to see is we had patients who were stressed out. They had stuff that they're dealing with at their house. They haven't been eating great, but they actually came in for extra adjustments. And guess what? They're not run down. They didn't end up getting sick. And everyone around them who's not doing that, they're getting sick. So yeah, we want to make sure that we're eating right and doing the other essentials. But sometimes when we have a lot going on, we aren't able to do all of those at 100%. So then the best thing you can do is support your healing and make sure that your body is adjusted so you can continue to fight off. So from a preventative stance, when you're feeling run down, start getting adjusted more before you ever have the crash. But if you did end up getting to the point of a crash, you need to get adjusted right away to help your body to get through that response.
This also answers one of the other questions about boosting your immune system while you're pregnant. If you've been into our office ever, at any given shift, you'll see 3 to 4 pregnant women. The best way to boost your immune system, again, is the number one thing that we do, that we specialize in, getting adjusted, specific structural correction adjustments. But, taking probiotics, eating the right food, reducing inflammation, making sure that your blood sugar is not elevated during the pregnancy, that's going to make for a lot more successful labor and a lot easier time.
During a pregnancy, you've got to make sure that when doctors are doing the routine blood work, that they're also running your vitamin D levels. Your vitamin D levels are so crucial. They need to be at least 80. 80 to 100 is the range that we want to see. And I have so many women who are pregnant, and their vitamin D levels are just so low. And they're being pushed. Their doctors are saying, you got to get the flu shot because it can be dangerous if you get sick. If you guys have seen, it's been getting shared, and it's actually gotten some national news attention. There was a study that came out and actually looking at, so they can't actually do studies on pregnant women, but they followed groups that were getting the flu shot during pregnancy, groups of women, and they actually found that there was an increased risk of miscarriage associated with the group of women that got the flu shot during pregnancy. So I don't know about you guys, but when we look at these things, we're trying to manipulate the immune response, and we're injecting things that there are side effects associated with them. So wherever you stand on the vaccine component during pregnancy, we need to make sure that we minimize anything from the outside that could be interfering with that baby's development. And we don't know, the studies coming out now is they're finding, actually, it might be causing some problems.
Think about the supplements that you're told not to take while you're pregnant, but then getting a flu shot is something that's completely okay. A statement issued by former control officer of the FDA, J. Anthony Morris, said there's no evidence that any flu vaccine thus far developed is effective in preventing or mitigating any attack of influenza. The producers of these vaccines know that they're worthless, but they'll go on selling them anyways. So this is one of the chief control officers of the Food and Drug Administration that regulates and makes sure that these things are safe. They green light the different vaccines that are coming out, but then they give the manufacturers of the vaccines a Teflon coating to keep them protected or immune against any sort of legal actions because of an adverse reaction from their medication.
You know how great the marketing has gotten with the flu shots. It's to the point that people think that if they get the flu, they will die, like that you can't live going through the flu. People think that the only way that you can avoid getting is to get the flu shot altogether. Your body can fight off things. The flu, yeah, there can be complications associated with it, but it's people who have their immune system are wiped. The complications from the flu are typically the complications from an improper immune response, that they have pneumonia and things like that. Your body is made to be able to fight stuff off.
There was from the Journal of Cancer Research and Clinical Oncology, a study found that a person having a history of colds and flu had less breast, colon, rectal, stomach, and ovarian cancer. Another study found that someone with a history of colds, flu, and other infectious disease had 30% reduction in the risk of a brain tumor. Natural healthcare providers have traditionally warned against this, and that it's the symptoms of the colds and flus that are stressing, but this is what's helping your body develop a more efficient, a stronger immune system is getting exposed to these different things. So when we're doing everything that we can to prevent it, we're unnecessarily weakening our immune system.
So our immune system is like a muscle. It needs to get trained. And think about from a young age, children are never given an opportunity for their body to fight. We're now a germophobic culture, that kids are getting antibacterial wipes all over them, that parents are like, wash your hands before touching my child, don't breathe on them, don't anything. You know that it's amazing that God's vaccine, that is beautiful how it was created. So man didn't develop the concept of vaccines. God made the first vaccine, and it's through breast milk. A mother creates antibodies, and it is actually when a mother is exposed to something, she creates the antibodies that go into a baby through the breast milk, and the baby is protected against it. We completely negate that and don't teach women how important that component is. And so the immune system starts to flex and build from a baby. But if we are constantly keeping all germs and everything away, the immune system never learns what it's supposed to do. They actually found that kids that grow up on farms and are exposed to farm animals and more things, they actually have stronger immune systems and less allergies and asthma than children who grow up without any exposure to animals in super clean environments. That was me. Thanks, Mom, for keeping our house really clean. But I wasn't ever exposed to anything. I think she's watching this, so I appreciate you keep everything clean, but I never got exposed to germs and dirt and things that actually help to build up the immune system the way that it's supposed to be. So we train the immune system, and they've actually found that when you get a fever, you actually kill cancer cells. It increases natural killer cells that find and detect cancer. So I look out for the first 18 years of my life, I was never getting a fever, that my body was creating cancer cells and wasn't actually having an appropriate response to anything like that. So when we do the flu shot, it's not even, at best it's 33% effective. I think that was the study that came out at best.
They picked the top 3 strains that they predict are going to make their way over into our country, and then they make a combination of those.
And they actually found that that children who get the flu vaccine are actually higher risk for hospitalization later on, that it doesn't fully protect us. It's not this fail-safe that we get this flu shot and then we magically have all of this protection. And for a lot of people, it can actually compromise the immune system because of all the additives and things in the vaccine that are needed to actually trigger the response. So the idea behind the vaccine is good, but it doesn't actually work the way that we're taught that it really does. So there's a lot better strategies that you can do to boost up your immune response than getting the flu shot. That's not something that you have to do.
Let's get into that. We have 10 minutes.
Okay. The last thing I want to touch on with this, I had a couple of patients ask about shingles, the shingles vaccine. That is this, do you have to have the vaccine or you're going to get shingles? It's crazy, some of the commercials that we have about shingles. Like, it can happen to anybody. Like, it's a scary thing that comes out. If you guys know what shingles are, if you had chickenpox at any point in your life,
You already have the virus inside you.
the virus is inside you, and what your body does is a virus never leaves the body will actually contain it, so the immune system actually contains it within the spinal cord. So I'm like pointing to your spine here. So it's contained within the spinal cord, and when your immune system is weakened, the virus can actually come out, and it comes out along one of the nerve tracts within the spine. So some people can get them along the nerves here within the face, various parts of their back or low back, and it's going to come out in an area of weakness. So it's pretty amazing. If you have damage within your spine, it's going to come out in that area of weakness. But when somebody has shingles, it doesn't happen randomly. It's not just a scary thing that pops up. It happens when you're immune compromised. So somebody that gets shingles, it's a red flag to me that your immune system is compromised right now. When I started going through, one of the first things before I started to really go down the route of getting diagnosed with all the autoimmune issues, I got shingles.
You get it like twice.
I had shingles repeatedly when I was a teenager, which it's a warning sign of an immune compromised issue. I also had alopecia. I started to lose an area of hair, which is another sign of an immune compromised issue. And it's crazy how those things just get brushed off. But it's really a big red flag. So there's protocols to do the immune reset, which we're going to get through as we wrap things up, the protocols that we need to do. But that is one of the best things that you can do to protect yourself, is boost up your immune system. You don't have to rely on things from the outside. I did have somebody ask about the there's a lot of medical professionals that are required to get the flu shot. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that you can do.
Some organizations and companies will let you sign a waiver. Others won't, especially if you're involved with like other patient care. They look at that as a way to protect other people, which is kind of crazy because again, it doesn't put this magical bubble around you that prevents you from spreading anything.
Yeah, they found there's actually more asymptomatic spreading of the flu. But unfortunately, there's I have a patient who quit her job because they were forcing her to do it. But I know for a lot of people, it's your job and you don't have an option. In the military, it is what it is. You're forced to do it. So we do recommend that you detox and that you do some things when you do get the vaccine, because there are additives and there are consequences with those. So we do recommend that you do a detox to help to get your body stronger afterwards. We want to get into protocols. Do we have any other questions that we needed to address?
There's one, taking sulfur crystals to help your immune system. Sulfur is going to be vitamin U, a natural component of glutathione, which is the biggest, most powerful antioxidant that our body produces. So that's an important compound, definitely of supporting your immune system. So I've never personally looked at taking specific sulfur crystals. I would look more towards taking foods that are naturally higher in sulfur, whey protein, eggs that are going to have natural components of sulfur or vitamin U to help with that antioxidative.
Well, and so we have a lot of people who, there's a lot of supplements that are like, oh, they're great for your immune system, zinc, vitamin C, all of these. But I have people who will take all those supplements and then they're eating sugar. Like, you can't supplement your way out of bad nutrition. Like, it's more powerful for you to actually do the nutrition changes and for you to spend all this money on these extra supplements that are coming in. With looking at the research, there's so much research about vitamin D that you want to talk about the most powerful punch that you can do to support your immune system is make sure that you're taking vitamin D at least 5,000 units a day. At some point when you get your yearly blood work, you should have your vitamin D levels run. Not all doctors do it. I can tell you almost every patient that I run levels on, they're like 20 to 30 when it should be 80. So then we have to increase the level of supplementation that they're doing. But when you're fighting some off, you can take higher amounts of vitamin D. We usually recommend about 10,000 units for a few days while you're fighting stuff off. I think we addressed all
everything.
Yeah, I think we got all the questions that were there. So let's start going into action steps for everybody.
Yes. So one of the big components you're going to need for this challenge is a juicer or someone that makes cold pressed juices. So Ideally, you have one of the higher quality juicers, something that would be more of the masticating. We have some patients that have some of the best juicers available, like the Norwalk juicers. You don't need anything that extreme, although if you do have one and you want to make us some cold pressed juice and bring it to us, go ahead. But fortunately, we've partnered with a place in Jacksonville that does cold pressed juicing as well. So if you don't have a juicer, you can order your juices. We've worked it out where you can actually have it delivered anywhere in Jacksonville, and it can actually even be same day. A lot of times, though, it's next day, or you can schedule it to be delivered whenever you'd want to start this challenge.
So some of the complications that people have with juicing, it's definitely going to be more cost effective for you to juice yourself. But a lot of people, the time component,
It's only sometimes too. It's not even always that much of a savings, but
yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
When you look at with the juicing that we're doing, it's a juice cleanse. So like you're not having food also.
Yeah.
You're strictly juicing. So if you look at the food, when you actually look at what you would budget for food in a day, all your meals, snacks, drinks, it actually ends up being less than what that would be for most people in a work week. I recommend if it's first time you're doing a cleanse to do it during the week when you're busy,
Yep.
not when you're just sitting around the house on the weekend, because it is.
People like to eat when they're bored, and if
Yeah.
you're not busy at work, you're not distracted, you get bored. You're like, I'm really hungry. I want to eat. I want to snack, and then you start thinking about all the things that you can't have, and it just makes it miserable, and you get hangry and.
So we recommend doing this juice cleanse, the Immune Reboot. You should do it twice a year. You should do it twice a year just to help to reset your immune system. Like Zach had mentioned, there's research that doing the 3 days of juice fasting can totally reboot your immune system. But then you also want to do juicing when you know that you're going to be immune compromised, when you're more stressed out or fighting things off. That's when you want to do juicing.
So if you've never done juicing, you've never attempted it before, I would suggest doing a 1 day first just to see how you do with it.
With blood sugar imbalances.
Have some berries or something to help support blood sugar drops or swings in that. Because juicing, especially within the first couple days, it can have swings and elevations in blood sugar and then crashes. Your body does have to get to a point of regulating it a little bit differently. So start with a 1 day, and then if you feel great, go on to the next day. It's no different in price if you do 1 day at a time or if you do all three. It's the same price regardless. So you can try 1 day. If you like it, then you can go for the other two. You can even go for the other 5. It's the same price if you bought a 1 day, 3 day, or 5 day. It's the same. So the company that we're working with is Watts Juicery. They're out in Jacks Beach. You can order directly on their website, wattsjuicery.com, and you would go to the Bold City Health Cleanse. And what that is going to be 2 of their green juices, number 200 and number 215. You'll get 2 of each of those. You'll get a water of your choice, which could be alkaline water, chlorophyll water, or activated charcoal water, which are going to be huge for helping to support natural detox, supporting the liver. And then you also get to pick a milk. So you could have almond milk, golden milk, which is their almond milk with turmeric. You could use chocolate cashew milk, which would probably be like a dessert. It's got your name all over it. And the pumpkin seed milk, which is one of their milks that I am super excited to try. I got a small sample when I was out there before, but I want an actual serving of it. So you get 4 juices, a water, and a milk. So you have 6 total drinks throughout the day. You'd be drinking basically every 2.5 hours. And
you're not eating during that time. So
anything beyond the juice, water, or milk would be water.
So it takes a lot of work. Your body diverts a lot of energy towards digesting food throughout the day. So when we do these juice fasts, it's dumping nutrients in while resting the digestive tract and allowing more energy to go towards healing and repair within the body. So that's why it's really important.
So if you're going on Watts' website, you can order online. You can order over the phone. It's $52.50 when you order and pick up in their store for the day. If you order it online for delivery, you would go to localgoodsmarket.com, search Watts, and you'll see their Bold City Health Cleanse. It's $62.50 per day, but that would include the delivery cost. So there's not anything extra on top of it. And for me, being in Ortega or here in West Jacks, if I can spend an extra $10 to not have to drive all the way over to the beach super early in the morning and then fight traffic on the way back. I'm gladly going to do it. You can order it again. When you order on Local Goods Market, you can schedule it sometimes even same day, but a lot of times it would be next day, or you can schedule or specify when you want it to be delivered, and then they'll work that delivery
So,
time out.
yeah, we have a lot of people who are wanting to start the juice fast like next Monday, or are wanting to pick a day during the week that they do it. When you order it and go to work, that's probably the best time to do it. I'm really productive because you just sit down and have your juice. You don't have to think about your meal or
Yeah.
prepping or anything like that. It's crazy how much of our mind actually goes towards thinking about what we're going to eat next. So when you're juicing, you realize how much that you don't have to think about that.
So with a 1 day, you may not notice as much of the energy pickup. You may feel like kind of tired, and then if you stop, you don't necessarily get as much of the benefit. So I would suggest trying it 1 day and then have the intention or plans of going at least 3. That's when you get the biggest benefit, the biggest impact overall, and the actual immune response that we're
So
trying to
we had a patient who did 1 day. I told her to try the 1 day first and see how you do. It's a little bit easier mentally to know you're going to eat the next day. And she was like, I didn't really like doing it. I didn't like how the juice tastes. So if you've done juicing before, most people do like beet carrot juice, which is all sugar, and it tastes better. We're doing a green juice, but it's low sugar. So like we talked about the glycemic index, even things that you're juicing, we need to make sure that we're supporting the immune system and not compromising it at all. And so she was like, I did it, and I was like, I didn't really like taste that much. But then a week later, she goes, all I could think about was I wanted a juice. And she goes, I realized I felt so good after doing it that she's like excited to do more days. She's like, I actually craved the taste of the juice because you just get so many nutrients in.
We're going to be having Watts come out to our October 14th, the health makeover, the brain fit workshop that we're going to be doing at Journey Church. They're going to be coming out and giving samples of some of their juices. So I would encourage everyone to do a 1 day, but if you want to take on the challenge, we're going to be introducing a completely new challenge that's going to incorporate juicing. We're going to be doing a ton for the immune system and brain health. I spent like 3 weeks like writing up this challenge, getting these recipes together. It's going to be really awesome. We were going to introduce this one on the workshop that we had planned on September 11th, but Irma had other plans in mind, so we're going to roll this challenge over and just do the juicing only for this period. So we're going to have a 1, 3, or 5 day that we'll do now, and then at the October 14th workshop, that's where you'll come. You can meet the owners of Watts Juicery, try their juice if you haven't, if you're just scheduling for the delivery. They're awesome people. They make great juice. They have a ton of even nutrition or food options that we love going out there just to pick up a snack.
So the workshop, the October 14th, it's going to be Winning My Race, and it's focused on brain health. There's all these neurodegenerative disorders that are increasing, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of those are on the rise. And if you've ever had a family member go through that, I think it's one of the most heartbreaking things to see somebody lose their memory and forget. I remember I was in middle school, and my mom went to go visit my grandmother as she had been deteriorating with Alzheimer's, and it was when my grandmother forgot who my mom was. I remember getting in the car with her and just seeing her cry and how much that impacted her, that I never want my kids to go through that. I would never want my children to have to see me like that, or go through that. And so we need to look at preventative strategies, because if you've had a loved one go through this, it is increasing. And so there is stuff we've got to do now to make sure that we're preventing that deterioration. And there's some really powerful action steps that you can do. Bring your kids, your teenagers out to that, because they're actually finding now that because of the increased use of technology, teenagers are actually starting to have more memory loss. And that's really scary when you look at the direction of where we're going. So this Brain Fit workshop we've never done this before. It's going to be a really powerful one. And like Zach said, we're going to be introducing a nutrition challenge that we're going to give you all the meal plans, everything to do, so we can give you some more action steps with it. So definitely try the juicing and then work on things from there.
So you can sign up for that workshop, any of our workshops, by going to boldcity.events. If you have friends or family that need to get plugged into our office in some way and you want to get them some more information, have them go right there, boldcityhealth.com. Looks like I pointed at her boob, but I actually pointed at the website right in front of her boobs. And then if you want to get your friends or family to watch this, get this information, we're going to keep this up on Facebook for the rest of the week, and then it's going to be going to our media page where they go to you have to type those unfortunately, www.boldcity.media, and they can access this and our Raising Healthy Families workshop. So if you had friends or family that you've wanted to watch, have them watch that one. That's where the Raising Healthy Families workshop is now, and that's where this will go by the end of the week. So
Yeah, I mean, if you notice that it's taking you a while to fight things off and you always come down with something, please take action and start doing something. So, come in if you, need to schedule an appointment to get the initial nervous system evaluation. If you have friends or family that their kids are sick all the time, gosh, that is such a huge red flag. Kids that have ear infections and get tubes in their ears, and they have food sensitivities, and they have digestive issues, like all of these things, it's gonna create major problems down the road for them that they have to get. It's so much easier to correct their child's body the earlier that we start intervening with things, and we can support the proper immune development. So, please invite them to one of the community dinners that we have. South Kitchen is October 9th is the workshop at South. So if invite somebody out, it's a free dinner. You come out, hang out with us, enjoy some food, and then we talk a little bit about the approach that we take with healthcare for people wanting to get introduced to it. But we hope that this was able to encourage people. It should not be a scary thing. I want you to start to have certainty and confidence that your body was created to heal, and we just have to listen to it and work with it and understand that, a fever, thank God for it. If you have a cough, thank God for that. But you have a responsibility to support your immune system, and don't go against it. And then when we're not doing everything, where we're going against our body, then we end up having to, go the route of antibiotics and steroids and going to the hospital. And it's not that God created your body weak. It was that you didn't do your part. We didn't do our part to support our body. And it was such a blessing in my life to learn the accountability that I had control over my health and I had control over, but you need to get the information. So
that's it. Love you guys. Max out.
Okay. To the end.
Yeah.
Feel weird, like if I don't.